Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about videos and how you can use them as tools um, for your news stories. So recording video with iPhone, again I apologize if any of you don't use iPhone. It's similar to what I talked about when we did the photo stuff. You can adjust the exposure by tapping the screen and then moving up and down that sun on the right side, and it will bring your exposure up and down. Same with focus, you can tap where you want to focus on the screen. So if you had an object in the foreground, such as like an interviewee, and then you didn't wanted the background to be out of focus, you would be able to do that by tapping on the subject. Another good tool is time lapse. So say you were covering a protest or something, you could do a quick time lapse of people walking through the frame or something like that. Slow motion. I don't do a lot of slow motion because it's hard to get the videos out of slow motion in Premiere when you've used an iPhone, but it's good to know you have it. And then always shoot video horizontal on your iPhone. Otherwise, it will come up on the screen vertical, which you'll have to change either the format or you'll move the clips around. So, what to include in these clips? Interviews, good things to include always. You would interview people that are important to the event, and then after you've done your interview, it's easier to plan out what you need for B roll. So, you would use clips that would provide more context for what your interviewee talked about, and things that would provide context about the place and people in the story. And you can also include a voiceover if you want, which you would record your own voice talking about the event, and then natural sound. So if you're doing a feature piece on a restaurant, for example, like the sounds of the grill cooking or them chopping up vegetables or something like that, those are good things to include as well. And then obviously when you're covering things, you would cover who, what, when, where, and why. When it comes to interviews, you want to make sure you have a clean background. So you want to make sure there's no bright lights or bright colors that would be distracting and pull your eye away from the interviewee. Definitely don't place them right in front of a window because it will backlight them and their face will be entirely dark and you can't see their facial features. When you're interviewing people, you also want to have a quiet room so the audio is good quality. If possible, that's not always possible, but if you can, it's definitely a good thing to do. Headroom and facing to the inside of the frame, I will talk about this with the next two slides. So, in this frame, you can see my subject is facing towards the inside of the frame and he's looking slightly off camera. You don't want your interviewee subject looking directly off camera, so what I recommend would be either setting your phone up on a tripod or setting it up off to the side of you, like to the left or right, whichever you prefer, and then sitting off to the side and talking to your subject that way. And you can see in this frame he's facing out of the frame, which kind of looks weird, and it's kind of a little provides tension on this left side of the frame, and it's not as visually appealing per se. And you can see also he's in the rule of thirds. I put these grids up on my phone, which you can also do in the settings so you can see where your subject is at. You can also center your subject if you want for interviews, but I prefer rule of thirds. So when it comes to Premiere, the first thing you want to do is if you're using an iPhone again, sorry if you're not, it's easiest to airdrop it to your computer. You'll all be working on these from home now, I assume, so you don't have to worry about the computers in the lab that will erase. But that's a good thing to always do is put the media on the hard drive first, and then a good thing to remember is always to back up your hard drive and save Premiere frequently. So I'm going to exit this and open my Premiere. This is a short video I worked on over the summer when I was here doing my boot camp for the graduate students. But I've already imported the clips so you can see them all on this left side. If you're in Common 17, this should be a refresher for you, but just so you guys have this information. And also due to the coronavirus, Adobe is offering free cloud subscription for until May, I think. So that's definitely a good thing to take advantage of, and you can have access to Premiere for free. So when it comes to importing your clips, you would do File Import, and it would pull up a window, a Finder window, and you would import your clips. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. You can also open Finder from here, and if you wanted to, like, click on it, and you can drag these in, and it would pull that up as well. In addition to video, you can also put stills in Premiere, which is a good tool to use as well. You can make a slideshow within Premiere um, of images, of still images. And so I would leave them on the screen in here for maybe 3 to 5 seconds as a general rule of thumb. But anyways, so I've already moved all these clips in here. You can see they're in my timeline. So this track is a video track 1, video track 2, video track 3, and then audio 1, audio 2, audio 3. So you can see I have audio in here. I believe it's just music in this clip, but you are able to move it around and adjust it. Something to know about the video tracks, they go from bottom up, so they're like layers. So if I moved this clip on top of this one, it would cover this video below it. So you can't see what's underneath. They are opaque. A good tool to have, key command would be Command Z. It's undo. I use it very frequently. So yeah, and then this is like your move tool, so you can move these clips around if you want to change them in order. And then another good tool to have is this razor, which will cut your clips. And then if you hit V on your keyboard, it will switch back to the move tool, and you're able to move those clips around. Again, Command Z is a good tool to have. And then this tool, the pen tool, is a good tool to have as well. So if I zoom in on this lower audio, I can keyframe it. So I would do an anchor point and then a free point, which would allow me to move this around so I can fade audio in and out. It's a really good tool to know. Command Z. Something else to know about audio, I'm not going to play this because it will be really loud, but you can see on this right side these bars that are bouncing up and down. So if you get into the red, it means the audio is distorted and it will sound really weird when you play it, and it will cut off information in your audio. So a way to adjust that is, again, by pulling this clip down, this little line on the audio down is the volume. And so as you can see, it's a little better. You can go down a little bit more still. About like -6 and -12 decibels is a good place to be as far as audio. And then if you wanted, so this is just music, there's no dialogue in this clip, but if you did have dialogue, I would put the music down on like, this is a 2-channel track, which isn't something you really need to know about. But if you wanted to move it down, you can move it down to audio 2. In this case, it's audio 2 and 3 because it's a 2-channel track. But yeah, so you can adjust it that way as well. And you would be able to put your dialogue or whatever you would have, your interview information, voiceover, right here. And then you would lower the music to be a lower volume than your dialogue, obviously. Another good tool is text tool. So if I click here and I want to make a title, I can click here and type for example, and then if I click back to the move tool, I can move this around and put it wherever I want. And you can see it shows up here in the timeline on top of those video clips. So another good tool is the effects panel. So if you wanted to transition video, you would do video transitions. there's video effects and video transitions, same with audio transitions and audio effects. You want to use transitions on the end, and effects would apply to the whole clip. So if I wanted it to fade to black before this clip, I can see, so it's applied right here, and if I play this, you'll see it will fade to black and then open to the other clip. Another one is cross dissolve, and that will dissolve between two clips that you have, so you can see it fades one out and fades the other in. And then audio transitions would do, so you can manually fade audio in and out with the key tool, the keyframe pen tool, the keyframes, and then you can also do an exponential fade, which will fade the audio in and out itself. So as you can see right here, it's applied to this little clip. You can see it on the end there. So that's another good tool to have. And for interviewing, a good thing to do when you're editing, if I don't have an interview clip in here, but if I had an interview clip in here, I would drag it into this source window, and you can watch the clip. So I wanted, however long of this clip, so I'd play it and say I wanted it to start right here, and I would press I, the letter I, on my keyframe or on my keyboard, and it would add an in point, and then I would let it play and say I want it to end there. I would add an O on my keyboard. I would click O, and it will add an out point. So then when I drag it into the timeline, it only drags in the points in between the in and out points. That's a good tool to use if you are editing interviews, so you don't lose information when you're clipping things within Premiere. Because a lot of times people will use the razor tool in here, which is fine, but you can end up losing information because you clip something and then you cut it and it's gone. So it's a good thing to know. But you also always have all your clips in here in full. Whatever you do in the timeline doesn't apply to these clips over here. One other thing to talk about is color. So this is kind of going into the weeds a little bit, but it's good to have in case you underexpose a clip. So if you open the color module up here on the top and you click basic correction, you can see I adjusted the exposure on this clip a little bit. The original was really dark, so what I did was just pull it up a little bit, which really helped out with this clip. As you can see, it was pretty dark. I don't really mess with anything else in here other than that. And then if I have a clip that's slightly off on my white balance, this clip is a little off, you can take this little eyedropper and select white in the frame, and it will adjust the white balance to look correct, so it's not too warm or too cool. So that's a good thing to also have. Something else I've failed to mention was to make sure you save all the time. So Command S is saving. Mine is set up in Premiere to save every, automatically saves every 15 minutes. I would change that to maybe 2 minutes. So it will save automatically every 2 minutes now. So that's a good tool to have as well. And then when you're exporting, you'll do File, Export Media, and then your settings over here, the export settings would be H.264, and then Vimeo 720p HD is what would look best for like YouTube or something. And then if you click here, you can name it. I always name it with my last name, and then the name of the project or whatever it is. And it should say MP4, and you'd hit save and then export, and it would save onto your desktop or wherever you select, which you would also choose in this little window. If you wanted to change it here, you push this little arrow and it will move. It will open the window wider so you can see where else you want to save it. I'm not going to save it because I already have this saved Yeah, so I hope that was helpful for you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your semester.